Hey, what's up guys? It's your man Daz, and I'm joined by Petzergling, and we are doing the second game of the Group of Death. This is Group H, I believe.
F.
What group was it? Group F. Group F, the Group of Death. This is a game between Jaedong and Hwasin. It's the second game. Pretty good matchup. I mean, Jaedong and Hwasin, two really top-level ZVT, TVZ players. Even though Hwasin hasn't been doing so much lately, I mean, he's a guy who's always been known for his excellent TVZ, even to the point of being considered a one-matchup wonder. And Jaedong, as we all know, I mean, he also used to be like a one-matchup wonder. Just like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Jaedong was basically unbeatable ZVT, and that's kind of how he rose into the high ground. So I'm really excited to see this game. I think the last game was really awesome. It was a game where Jaedong used queens. It was actually the second game where Jaedong used queens with his defilers and lurkers to ensnare and parasite science vessels. A lot of people know about the first game he did against Fantasy, but he also did it to Hwasin a little bit later, and that game played out almost exactly the same way as the Jaedong Fantasy game. So if you missed it, pretty much just imagine that game but with different colors. And it was a great game. I mean, I'm really hoping to see some kind of cute play like that from Jaedong again. And hopefully Hwasin has come up with some kind of counter to it. Anyway, the game's starting, so we're going to sync it up here. 3, 2, 1, 0. And on that note, like I wonder what would be the best way to counter queens. I mean, would you actively try to pick them off? Or would you just kind of like cut your losses and play standard?
Well, in my opinion, I mean, let them happen. I mean, I'm one of the people that, although I'm not super old school, when I see something new come along, like the mech, or like, oh, fantasy's really good, or oh, this build, it's like it just kind of, it works, but it's not necessarily good. Like, I think queens are okay. They require a lot of APM, but in the situation that I've seen them used, I mean, it's pretty much you won the game anyway. Like, if you have a good surround and you have to the point where you ensnare them and kill them, I mean, if you have a surround on somebody's Hanbang with their science vessel early on, I mean, you can't, like, that's what you're supposed to do anyway, and the queens are only a little bit of added bonus. So I don't think really getting in the situation where your opponent's using queens is the problem, I think, and it's not really what to do after that. But on that note, I think this is actually a really interesting matchup. Like you said, Jaedong, just an amazing ZVT player, but Hwasin, a really good TVZ player. I mean, his teammates at STX Seoul, I mean, one of the things that they pointed out with interviews is that Hwasin, they would probably say at times is the best TVZ player around. And I'll have an argument to that. I say there are other better players, but Hwasin plays some amazing games sometimes. And
Sure.
He's not to the point where I think he's not like Leda where he has problems in individual leagues, or he's like C where he chokes. It just seems like he doesn't play that well. And it looks like Jaedong, once again with a 70-30 advantage, the exact same percentiles as Flash had. And crossbots, which, it really depends on what kind of builds they go for, depending on who it's going to favor. But Jaedong actually not scouting. I think he's really trusting Hwasin's honor. And Hwasin is usually a pretty honorable TVZ player to the point where he uses, he'll use Mac if he needs to. I mean, he's a very good, experienced tournament player. He definitely can switch up his play. But for the most part, he doesn't play with mech, and he's one of the few Terrans lately who have been playing mostly, not with no exceptions, but he plays a pretty standard game, and I mean that is shown from Jaedong, not scouting whatsoever with a drone. I mean, if he had done some sort of proxy barracks in the middle of the map, transition that into some early vultures, Jaedong would have had problems with that. And I'm going to say Jaedong has the advantage in this matchup because Jaedong versus Biomech or just Bio is pretty strong. It's really the games that players have gone mech against Jaedong that he has some problems, and I'm surprised that Hwasin didn't do it, although, I can understand why. I think Hwasin's a lot more comfortable player with a bio build, and throwing down the CC, so a standard economic opening there from Hwasin.
Is that not a very quick CC? I mean, normally wouldn't you build up at least like 4 or 5 Marines before you laid that down?
Well, not really. I mean, there's two standard CC timings. There's the 16 CC and then there's a 21. I mean, it's either 20 or 21, where if you scout your opponent first, you time your first scout so that it arrives to their natural expansion right about when your first or second supply depot is about to go down. So that's actually the early version. If you know right away that they're going to go for a 12 hatch, you can actually put your command center down before your second supply depot. But, it's kind of a middle ground. you can play it a little bit safer, but considering Jaedong went for a 12 hatch, I mean, this is definitely a safe opening. And now Jaedong putting down the third hatchery. So this is, you know, I guess it doesn't surprise me, but it's, you know, something to point out that both players playing just completely standard. I mean, Hwasin not trying to go for some sort of pseudo-economic build, getting some Marines down, although not getting a bunker down. And Jaedong, you know, up till this point is playing pretty standard. So I think the cliffs and the natural expansion are pretty strong for Mutalist Harass, but the main base actually isn't that good because it's kind of in a low ground, and the minerals are, you know, to the off sides of the map. You can't really get behind the mineral lines. So the Muta Harass is really going to be focused on Hwasin's unit count. So I have to imagine Jaedong is going to try and play for late game build. He's going to try and use his Mutalists against the Marines, keep his Marine count down low, take a third base, go quick defilers, the standard really Korean Zerg style. And it's really going to be up to how much damage the Mutalist can do, unless Hwasin decides to go for some sort of strange build, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, standard 2 barracks, now getting his academy. Hwasin's still with that SCV alive, so he's going to, you know, even not like he wouldn't already, but he's going to have perfect turret timing, and second gas going up during the lair morph, no hider den, so we're definitely going to be seeing mutas here from Jaedong.
SCV's dead now. Just wanted to slip that in there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we definitely can expect Jaedong to play for the late game, as we can see the fact that he triple hatched. I think Jaedong is more of a fan of the 2 hatch against standard play. And so he's just doing the standard Savior style 3 hatch ZVT. Looks like Hwasin going for an early M&M bust, which might actually do some damage here because there are no Sunkens. He hasn't even started a creep colony yet. This is actually going to definitely do some damage unless Jaedong can build up a lot of Zerglings right now and go for a great surround. It looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. Okay, that's enough Zerglings for sure.
This is rough for Hwasin.
Oh, Hwasin's going to lose these Marines. Oh, wow, good control by Hwasin. The fire bats, oh wow, well done by Hwasin. Really good job. This is going to be really tough for Jaedong to stop without taking any damage. I don't know why Hwasin is sitting there. He's got the fire bats. He needs to go in now before the fucking Sunken finishes. He's going in here. I mean, it all comes down to micro right now. He has to use these fire bats well. If he uses the fire bats well, he's going to do a lot of damage here. Oh, the Sunken's not even going to go up. Jaedong's in a lot of trouble. I mean, really great play by Hwasin. Good Zergling surround there, but I think it's going to hold that. Oh, wow. Great control by Hwasin, and that's why we see Hwasin's one of the greatest TVZ players. I mean, that was really beautiful right there. Box
that was excellent control there.
Yeah, this is really horrible for Jaedong. I mean, he's in a world of fucking trouble right now. You just cannot lose your natural. Yeah, I mean, this is just a disaster. I mean, he's going to be down a base to Terran. I mean, you really cannot be behind in bases against the Terran with your Zerg. It just, you cannot win a game. If he does not get this, oh man, oh wow. I mean, if Jaedong had saved that hatchery, that would have been just such an epic play. But I mean, not happening. Really, Jaedong in so much trouble. I mean, he's practically has to win the game with these Mutalisks, and I really don't see how he can do that.
Yeah, I mean, Jaedong's late game strategy was so evident. I mean, Hwasin walked right into his hands. I mean, Jaedong knew exactly what Hwasin was going to do. He didn't put down the creep colonies, but instead produced extra Zerglings, hit him, and went for the bait, and then tried to go for a surround. And Jaedong's not going to be able to do anything for this. Just, I would say, flawless play from Hwasin. I mean, he almost stepped into a trap set by Jaedong. Jaedong had a decent surround, but Hwasin just used the medics to block excellently. Just amazing control. Fire bats were just perfectly in time, and you know, Hwasin's control paid off. I mean, usually we see long, drawn-out macro games, but I think this is one of the few games that I think micro really just completely, decisively won a player of the game. I mean, Jaedong, his plan was to not put down creep colonies and then use the extra Zerglings. I mean, granted, he didn't save any money because he was sacrificing drones to get the Zerglings, so really his plan was not to defend, but to try and kill off a lot of Hwasin's Marines to force Hwasin to delay his third base a lot, and that pretty much backfired because he was forced to put down Sunkens, and then he lost his natural expansion anyway. So I mean, he, in terms of economy, he overprotected for that attack, and it still did nothing. And Jaedong not joining his Mutalist with the Zergling, so I think Jaedong is almost, I mean, at Jaedong's point, he's pretty much over. Like, he can't do anything, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, he's still trying, but Hwasin is just going to build up such a massive Hanbang timing attack with his first science vessel. You know, Jaedong not even a position to build lurkers. He has 5 Mutalisks in that group trying to micro against Marines.